Blake, author of the Ancient Illumination series and the Embody Chronicles, and I am joined once again by Andre Rose Washington.
Hello.
She's the author of Adelithia, Elendil, and Almond Tree's Magic, and we are also joined by Jordan Pennell Jackson.
Hey, everybody.
He is the creator of Eve of Insurrection, Eve of Reclamation, as well as the graphic artist and illustrator for the Ancient Illumination graphic novels and the Embody Chronicles comics. He also is the illustrator for Arrow J. Knight's Jericho's Bane. And today we are finally wrapping up Willow, the series streaming now on Disney Plus. So spoiler alerts, because we're going through episodes 7 and 8 today to get this one wrapped up. Episode 7 is Beyond the Shattered Sea. We've been hearing about this for all the episodes, and we've had a few episodes that we all, I can say, agree that were kind of filler episodes where they were just kind of sidetracked the whole time on these little side missions. So we're finally getting there. The opener of this episode opens with Eric and Mystery Girl that just shows up magically at the place that he was imprisoned and then let go with this nasty ass water that he, for some reason,
Orange water.
It's a good idea to start sipping on. I don't know how you guys felt, but I immediately did not trust Mystery Girl when she showed up at the end of the episode. Kind of.
No, never did. I was like, oh, you've been here the whole time? Okay.
Yeah. And then we find out from the end, towards the end of episode 6, they blacked one scene out where Kit jumps, and when she falls into that little, the funky water in the mines, we find out in this episode that Kit and Eric almost met via the funky water. But Alora obviously pulled her out during that blackout section, but we don't actually see her get pulled out. They just cut later on, and she's out. We see that Boorman, for whatever reason, is hesitant now to use the cuirass, and he keeps talking about this perfect moment. I can't. It's got to be like a momentous moment for me to use it. And I get the kind of feeling that he really knows in the bottom of his heart that it's not going to work, and that's the reason why he's afraid. Because we see that Adagas or whatever Christian Slater character's name,
dude from last
it didn't work for him. So we've already got a precedent set that it may not work if you put it on. Willow's in this episode is talking about we have to walk across the Shattered Sea. And they start that journey briefly, but of course Kit falls out and they're forced to rest. They rest at this out of nowhere shack / boathouse right as you enter the Shattered Sea. And we get this old warrior that's there. He's got some nasty ass food. Again, another character that just pops up out of nowhere. Anytime that happens, I don't know how you guys can chime in. I never trust these characters. Anybody that pops up out of the blue with nothing, you don't get any kind of introduction to them. They just appear. Immediately, I'm suspicious. How about you guys?
So with the old man, I have to say I was suspicious, but not because I felt like he worked for the evil guy, but more of like the creepy, lonely guy who's like, no, don't go anywhere. Oh, no, we'll talk about it after this. Or like he was alone, like when they first met him and he was just like, oh, you're a figment of my imagination. Or am I a figment of yours? I felt like he was so lonely that he would derail them because he wanted them to stay. So I didn't get the necessary, you're evil immediately, but it was like, okay, but you're not good.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, that guy, I was sitting there trying to figure out who the actor was the whole time. I was like, I feel like I've seen this person before. I can't tell, but his voice is very familiar. But I was just like, oh, yeah, this guy's here for a plot device, clearly, to push the story along. I'm not interested. I was more interested in the creature. What did he end up calling?
The Mudmander? Yeah, that was a little
Kenneth?
weird.
Did he call him Kenneth? Did Gray?
In the end, yeah. Graydon names him Kenneth after some hero in a romance novel he's going to write.
Yeah, I was more interested in that creature. I'm like, what's that about?
Yeah, so Zeb is there. He pops up out of nowhere. He's asleep in his house with this little sleigh, and then he offers them dinner. And here's another thing. That delaying tactic made me think like, oh, I don't really trust him because he's trying to make them waste time more than to let them move on. Borman, he gives 0 Fs. He's one of those people I think that just has, from the military, I know you get people in a crew that you have that one that's got like that cast iron stomach. My man's got worms in the bowl. He don't care. Everybody's looking at it all crazy, and Borman's just digging in full throttle with the spoon. He didn't need no salt, no nothing. He was just going for it.
He was like, at this point, it's calories, and we need that. So
yeah,
my boy journey.
Zeb can't remember what quest he was on. He admits that he's an old warrior, and he does mention that in the end, everybody turned against each other, and that to the point where they were murdering each other. And my notes have a last man standing question mark. So if they all stop to kill each other, Zeb's the only one there. And then we cut to another scene. We go back to Eric, who now wakes to a dry pool with New Girl. That slat closed over that pool of brown water that they were drinking from. And suddenly, girl is gone. And of course, she's inside. She ends up admitting that she's the princess of Kashmir. And they go through the whole thing where she was kind of being a snob to him earlier for admitting he's a prince. And they flash and they go right back. You want something? You look like you want to say something, Andrea.
No, that whole scene, anytime they spoke to each other, it made me realize why Kit is the one in charge of the kingdom. Like why their mother was putting Kit in charge. Because Eric, why are you not worried about her? Like, why is it that because she's a woman or whatever? Because I feel like if it was a dude, Eric would have been more like, oh, hold up, I don't trust you. But like, dude, you were kidnapped. You're in this alone world. You haven't seen anyone. And some random girl shows up who, in my opinion, she looked like his sister. She looked like a more girly version of his sister.
You know what's? Yeah, I could see that. They both have brown hair. This one was longer.
Like,
that's funny.
Okay. And it just seemed like, Eric, I understand now why no one expects anything of you.
Yeah. He admits that too. Like,
yeah.
I never should do that. He's like, you shouldn't have to just do what everyone expects of you. And then later on, he's like, well, no one expects me to do anything. So I'm just going to keep with that.
Yeah.
And then they cut a, go ahead, Jordan.
And I don't understand what's up with people giving out like their whole names and where they from. I don't understand that part. Like you don't got to tell her where you from.
He was like, I think that's part of the reason why I'm here. But they cut away from them. They go back to the rest of the gang who's still at Zeb, and Zeb's talking about making eggs, and he can make them a breakfast before they show off. Did you peep that there was more than one of him in there after a couple minutes, like just walking around?
So that scene, because we see that lover boy, because I cannot remember his name, Graydon. We see that he notices it, and my thing is, I don't know if everyone else noticed it, and only Graydon noticed it, and maybe because like because he is a sorcerer or whatever, that he was able to see. Because like Willow didn't, like the guy he was obvious that there was someone else walking around. Yeah. And so I'm like, I think that Graydon was the only person who was able to see that it was two. Because Willow didn't see it, Kit didn't see it, no one else saw that there was two. And it was like, hey, we need to go.
He's like, we need to leave right now. You see him looking back and forth when another one pops up at the kitchen. And that's when he smacks him in the head with a pan. And this is part of what made me think that Zeb was just delaying them, or maybe he's a changeling, because the moment that Graydon notices and smacks him with the frying pan, the crone's henchmen show up inside the shack.
Got a bird. I saw the bird lady.
So here's my thing. I don't think the original old man was the changeling. I think the thing was copying him, but he's just so old and senile, he didn't realize that there's someone else there. Because he's just milling around in the back, just like lollygagging, making them breakfast, not realizing that the other guy is like not him. And it was not one of their crew members. You
So
know?
you think that Graydon smacked the changeling that was the henchman and not Jeb himself that he smacked with the cane?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Because that was
think
kind of
Jeb himself
confusing
was
when you see the female changeling, whatever that thing is, the bird thing pops up and kind of hisses.
Yeah. I feel like she went back to that form.
Yeah. But it seemed like it was at an opposite end than where Zeb was. And so they escape in the sleigh, and they're in the midst of this like high-speed chase in the sleigh with these people, and one's on horseback and the other one's flying. And I think someone asked Borman again, hey, maybe you should put that damn thing on and use it. And he still won't use it. He's like, this isn't the moment. Like, dude, if this is not the moment, what is the moment? That was a pretty cool fight scene to me with the chase. Borman is fighting with that thing that's got half of his face covered with, like, it has no eyes and the mouth and the bottom. They're sword fighting. The thing is throwing ninja stars into
Kit got hit.
Yeah,
Kit got hit, which was funny.
Yeah. And then we see at the end that Graydon can wield magic. My boy whips out his flute.
Purple magic.
Blows the bird thing out of the sky. And of course, towards the end, Elora freezes because she gets a vision of the crone amidst their fight. And so eventually they end up getting away. Jade, I think, stabs the one henchman and he falls off the sleigh, and they ride off and get a chance for respite. I like that scene, actually, because we're actually getting some nice action. We're getting to where we're supposed to be going. We're doing the things we're supposed to be on our way to do. And then I thought this was a hilarious moment after they stop. Jade pulls a Major Payne. I don't know if anybody of you seen Major Payne when he goes.
I have seen it.
I have for a while.
You want me to show you something, take your mind off that pain? When she distracts her, she full on smacks her in the face before taking a ninja star out of her arm as they stop for rest. And then we get like a training montage for everyone, I guess, because
did anyone feel that was forced?
It was forced, and I was with it. When the
I mean, I had to be with it. It took forever for us to get here, but I'm like, we're gonna train in this episode. I was like, all right.
They started throwing magic back and forth, and Kit stands up. She wants to spar with Jade. Yeah. Okay. And then even Graydon gets in on
actually is like, I'm gonna wipe the floor with you. Like, I'm actually gonna fight you this time.
Yeah, it was a little cheesy when it got to the magic food. When you get the scene of both Graydon and Elora standing side by side. My boy does a little kung fu bow with the fist in hand. I'm like, come on, but I was down. Like, I was still down with it at that point.
The CGI, it was looking good. It was giving a nice alternative to like Hogwarts fight scenes with magic. I thought this is cool.
Yeah, it was a great. I like the montage scene. It worked.
It was good.
I think this was the first time. I think it was like the last 4 episodes or last 4 episodes where I actually really started truly liking the show. And I felt like everything in these last 4 episodes should have been basically the season. Yeah. And that training montage was perfect. It should have happened in like episode 3 or 4, but instead of 7. But I think it worked because it showed they were finally. It wasn't really until like these last couple of episodes that they started actually being a team and started sharing all the secrets, and we started learning more about everyone. So it's like everyone's secrets, quote unquote, were all out into the open. So there was no posturing. There was no, I think I'm better than you, or I think I'm this great sorcerer. It was like everything's on the table. This is all we got. Yeah. Let's just do it.
And we finally get our kiss from Kit and Jade, which I think, Andrea, you had missed the couple episodes that Jordan and I were by ourselves talking about this, but we were debating on whether Disney was purposely interrupting, because you think in the first or second episode when Eric gets, like, they're in the middle of the night, Kit was going to escape the kingdom as Tyrus leaned. Then when she hopped on her in the bed and she leaned close like she was about to kiss, and then the alarm goes off, and the prince and everybody is fighting, so they interrupted them there. And then again, in the Wildwood, she was just about to kiss her after kind of professing her love, and then she gets snatched away by the trolls. So I was kind of curious as this scene was developing. I'm like, something's gonna happen right now, like right before they actually kiss, and they're gonna get snatched away again. And then they actually follow through and let it happen. We get more training between. Go ahead.
So I knew they would kiss, and I knew Disney wouldn't stop it because this is on Disney Plus, not on Disney Channel. And so on Disney Plus, parents can regulate the ages of like what their kids can see. So I knew on Disney Plus it would be possible.
Okay.
Now I don't think this would happen on the Disney Channel, but only because it's on the app, and one, you're paying for it, and parents can have a little bit more control over what their kids are watching, because you can put on the back end of it, because now they have like rated R stuff on Disney Plus. So
I said, which is strange. I'm like, why did they do that?
Yeah,
I don't even know what is even. I don't even know what that is. But
so I think it's Deadpool.
It's
the Defenders. This is the Defenders.
Okay, got you.
So I knew they would allow the kiss only because it was Disney Plus. If we were watching this episode on Disney, I wouldn't have expected the kiss, and Kit would have been a boy, because they wouldn't have done this on the channel.
Would they have done it in like you know how like when it comes to theatrical, like all their films, theater releases, and like certain countries like China would be like, no, you can't show any type of like queer love or anything like that. And so that was why I was a little like I was thinking like, is Disney, because I'm trying to think like, because has Disney shown that type of romance before in their films, like their larger IPs? So I was wondering like, are they gonna do it for this?
It was too much of a coincidence
to me. I was like, you got to do it now. I mean, you're setting up these two characters, like it has to happen. Like don't backpedal. Like, come on now.
I was just thinking it was too much of a coincidence that it kept happening at that very moment every time for like two times in a row. So I was curious whether they would follow through. We get a little bit more of training between Allura and Willow, and then she finally unleashes on Willow, like knocks him out. He looked all crazy when they turned him over. He's like, "Oh, Willow!" Like,
so I realized, I think it was like maybe episode 6, I think, when I was watching it, where I realized the reason I didn't like Willow, because like he was acting fake because he was fake, and I could like everyone else in the show seems like they're acting as their characters, but it seemed like this one character just never seemed real to me. Like even everything he said seemed so scripted, and I was like, why don't I like Willow? Like I liked him in the first one, and like in the movie, but in this TV show, it just comes across as so fake. And it's like, because he's being fake. And so it's like Willow, I feel like in that montage scene when he gave her that dirty look, I want to say it's because, or I felt like it was because she's being what he always wanted to be.
Yeah.
And like the moment he let go of the fakeness, that's when I actually started and actually being his real self. I was like, okay, I actually like you a little bit more. And I felt like his acting changed a bit too. It wasn't as stiff and like know-it-all, because we now know that he even considers himself a fake.
Yeah. Allura to me was kind of in the fake it till you make it mode because she's now stepping into the role, but she is truly faking it till you make it, because she starts selling Big Wolf tickets when they're off on the sleigh. She's getting a little snotty with Kit. Well, that's none of your concern, is it? And then just give me to where I need to be. And then what happens? And then I'll kill the witch. Like she's selling Big Wolf tickets this time. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you think you got it. They go back to Eric, and New Girl is slowly revealing herself to him, I think, at each moment. It's kind of, it was telegraphed. We all knew this was coming. She's slowly revealing who she is, and then they're going back and forth kind of quickly between the groups now, because when they flash right back to Willow, he has more visions after talking about the worm to Kit, and admits that he's having visions. I was thinking here, obviously, and I think I was right, that this was crone manipulation, because he's envisioning his daughter, Mims, and he thinks something's going to happen with her. The Mudmander, Kenneth is getting pressed the closer they get. And all these heart-to-heart, come-to-Jesus conversations, I keep thinking, like, this is not the time to be having any of these conversations, but you keep sidetracking yourself to have these conversations.
Are we going to talk about Graydon and Alora's conversation?
That's part of what
I'm be honest. I'm Team Graydon.
Are we gonna? Yeah, that was. This is the weirdest thing in the world.
I didn't think that boy had any chance whatsoever, and then like
character arc.
And yes,
yeah, they whole character arc.
He went from I do not trust this boy as far as I can throw him to Allura. If you don't pick this boy over Eric,
wow.
I am Team Graydon now.
Okay.
I was too. The fact this man had magic abilities, that was really what really changed the game. He was like, oh, this guy has powers. All right, okay, all right, this is cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm Team Graydon or not. I just felt there were better times to have these conversations. It wasn't when you should be on a constant visual. The closer that you're getting to your goal, and you know that there's at least one thing, if not more, in pursuit of you, behind you, and more than likely something awaiting you in front of you. You should be paying attention. This heart-to-heart stuff, like he just chose the bad time to have these conversations to me. We also see Borman actually trying, in private, he tries to cure ass and it won't work for him. So that was confirmed. Crone manipulation confirmed, as I think this is where Willow tries to speak out. I don't know what with this magic speech to his daughter, and it turns out to be the Crone, in fact. And then Graydon frees Kenneth.
Yeah.
What did y'all think about that? I was like, what?
Yo, he was bonding so hard with Kenneth. I was like, oh, Kenneth's his best friend now. Of course he let Kenneth go.
I understood it because now that it looks like, what's going to happen is going to happen next.
Yeah.
I feel like Kenneth needs to stay alive for like future reference. Okay. And is going to come back. And so like if he was really sick and was going to die, Graydon couldn't Graydon doesn't have the heart to exploit him for his own personal gain like that. And we see that it works out in their favor because they weren't supposed to ride across the thing anyway. They were supposed to walk. So even though it's like he did the wrong thing for the right reason, quote unquote wrong thing, I feel like we're going to see Kenneth again.
I hope so.
And and he's going to save them. The only way that he can is because Graydon saved him.
Yeah, that'll be the only way to make that right, is if in a pinch he actually comes back and he's their way to escape later, if there is a later. But they hinted that there might be. So yeah, they walk the rest of the way, and then they flip back to Eric, and he officially meets the Crone. She reveals herself to him as the Crone, still in this, I think, glammed. The look of her illusion of how she looks, she still looks like this young girl, but she reveals who she is. And he's super thirsty, and that the way she gets him, he just crawls in.
Orange juice.
Yeah, he gets the orange
juice.
Yeah, the dirty Kool-Aid in the chalice this time.
Yep.
And the crew keeps walking, and they end up at a dead-end waterfall. The group stops. Kit and Allura take a leap of faith, and Allura and Kit together find the city finally. And to close off the episode, my boy Eric shows up with a new fade and these crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, he looked good.
In the black outfit. Okay, now he's a badass.
He looked good. He's still an idiot, but he looked good.
Yeah, my boy got rid of the flowing locks, got his little haircut, got the leather fit on. He had the little scabbard, sword and scabbard on his back. Like, what's happening? He pops out. So yeah, that's episode 7. We got a lot done, I think, in that episode finally, which is good. It finally had an identity. I think that's mainly the problem I've had with it. It lacked an identity to stick with throughout the entire thing. So we're getting pulled in by things that we like by the show, and then they intermittently throw in these things that we don't like, which is kind of all over the place, and that kind of hampers your enjoyment of it, because like I don't know what this is for a vast majority of the time, and the times that I do like something, you pull that away from me, and now I'm like, what is happening? Did you guys feel the same?
I felt like this. I felt like this was a hodgepodge. So I feel like this was a rough draft. Like I saw this amazing tweet by someone, and they were like, "How do you write a book?" And I want to say it was Neil. Was it Neil or was it Stephen King? One of those guys responded. It was like basically you write all your ideas down, and then in your next draft you make it flow like you knew what you were doing. And I felt like this was a rough draft. This was all the ideas that they had for this season.
Yeah.
But they didn't really know how they all fit. And so instead of maybe cutting some things that they didn't need that would make the story flow better, they kept them in there. And this episode was, I felt like them making up for episodes. Neither one of them would have been a filler episode, and they could have expanded on someone. It wouldn't have been so much of a training montage type thing, or forcing until like 30 minutes. There would have been 2 episodes, and we could have saw more of Eric getting seduced versus it happening to him so quickly. So I felt like all of the episodes, like 1 through 6, was we don't really know how to get to this point, so we're going to throw everything at the wall. And episode 7 was like, all right, this is everything that actually has to happen to make the story work. And it was like, okay, you didn't plan this out correctly. So I felt like everything in this episode was needed, but didn't all need to happen in this episode.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like this episode because it kind of brought together all of the great aspects of the show. And I honestly felt like this series needed to be massively shorter. Like I know they need to take out 2 episodes. Like we probably didn't need. Oh goodness.
Wildwood.
Is that the one with Scorpia?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could take that one out. Like there was clear, like there were too many episodes where like they were just fillers, and like they weren't editing the story well enough or writing it well enough where like every scene or moment was just convincing and like pushing the story. You do? I mean, I liked it, but I mean, it didn't really.
But you're right. It didn't really add.
It gave more context, but it doesn't like. Yeah. You can do that skillfully in an edit or like acting or like there's infinite ways to solve that problem, but we didn't need a whole episode in the Wildwood. So it was kind of like we could have subtracted 2 episodes. Like this could have been a 6-part series or a 4-part, easy. Or one and done over. Or
when the other chick was when Laura was with those 2 women, that scene could have been cut. Because what did that really add when she was with the 2 wood?
The lumberjacks.
The lumberjacks. I felt like if we had lost that, because I liked yeah,
that was useless.
I did like this episode, and I want to say because I'm mad that I wasn't here when you guys were talking about it, but I called it. I called that those 2 girls were related. I was like, they look too much alike to be for this to.
That's what I was saying the whole time when I was watching.
I was like, they look too much alike. At first, I will say I did think she was her mother at first. I didn't think sister. But I called that they were related, and I'm mad that I couldn't be on the show in that episode. I was like, I have so much to talk about.
Funny. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come right back and get into episode 8 and wrap this series up. We will talk to you in a second. And welcome back to the second half of the Askari cast. My name is Rod Van Blake, and I'm joined once again by Andrea Rose Washington.
What up?
And Jordan Pennell Jackson.
Hey, everybody.
And we are continuing our wrap-up of the show Willow that is streaming now on Disney+. And now we're going to get into episode 8, Children of the Worm. I'd already warned you in the first half, but in case you missed it, spoiler alert, because we're going through pretty much everything. So yeah, we get to the beginning of episode 8 where Elora and Kit arrive at the Memorial City, and the henchmen show up right behind them. Eric is sitting there in all his glory with his new leather outfit and his haircut, acting like everything is cool. And Kit is kind of funny because she has no idea what is actually happening when she tries to explain what's going to happen. And then her explanation is like, well, yeah, they're going to awaken the something something, and we're going to put the whatchamabobbin, and we're all going to die, basically. And he's like, they're going back and forth. And he's just kind of refuting all of their arguments. They're turning back and forth to where Kit's like, you want to take this one? And so Laura will turn and try and talk to him. And they decide that they're going to go inside for a chat for some. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going in for a chat. You can't go in for a chat. You know there's nothing good's going to come of this conversation. Why are we going in for a chat? Then they cut to Jade, Graydon, and Borman, who follow, of course, after the leap of faith down the waterfall to make it to the city. And then they have Willow turning back to go get Mims, which I never for once believed he was turning back. Like, your name is in the title, homie. We can't have Willow with no Willow. No one's fooled by you turning back. You're going to show up at the end. We know this. And then we find out that he admits, baby, Eric admits to drinking the good stuff. Oh, that's another thing you missed, Andrea. We wanted to have you here to talk about Gary from accounting, the really polite troll in the mining episode.
I love the trolls.
Oh my god,
they were
hilarious.
Adorable.
Well, the one that he spoke so properly, I'm like, that's Gary from accounting. He's like, we're not that bad actually. And then, he had fashion sense. He was talking smack about how they were dressed and everything. I was like, oh, so yeah, Eric admits he's been drinking the good stuff, and he tries to equate it with mother's milk, and they try and stop him from making this sick analogy.
Please stop.
And of course, the crone comes back, and none of Eric's explanations sound good to Kit. Kit's like, what you're saying doesn't sound good. None of that sounds like that's going to lead to anything good, and I agree with her. My man Borman offers to make out for whatever.
I was what?
The city. He's like, you know what? If you would choose to make out right here, I wouldn't be against it. I was like, what? What is happening? Why is he offering to make out? And then he's like, well, what's the plan? Well, I offered for us to kiss, but you just blew me off. So I guess we'll just, walk on. I didn't get that. I mean, it was funny, but I didn't get the need to have that part there. And of course, Elora and Kit stupidly walk into the portal so they can all enjoy fake La La Land.
Which did not make
Elora
sense
getting married?
Yeah. Fake wedding, all that stuff, and talk with your fake mama and all this stuff, these illusions that obviously the crone is manipulating to try and get you to make a decision. Jade, Borman, and Graydon can't open the gate to get in. They get turned to stone. But you knew it wasn't over at that point. I don't think anybody was fooled. Eric and the crone are inside this thing selling dreams, boy, to Elora and Kit. They are laying it on thick.
They're trying to sell ice to a snowman.
And then somehow Mad Mortigan's voice, Kit hears Pops, and that kind of snaps her out of it. And I was kind of leery about this because I was just untrusting of anything within that portal. I was like, is this really his voice, or is this another manipulation from Crone trying to manipulate? Then she goes through the motions of trying to find Elora, and the Crone says Elora made her choice. But I don't think that's necessarily true because we never actually see her take a sip from the chalice. We don't never see her drink. We just see her come out later to this fake wedding with a dress on.
Yep.
Did you guys notice the friends' faces were listless? They were like lifeless. When she looks out in the crowd and you see Graydon, you see Jade, and you see Kit, it's them, but there's no expressions on their face. They're just kind of staring into nothingness. in the end, finally, she does the right thing, of course, and refuses to kiss Eric and doesn't let the magic go from her into him. And my boy Willow pops up and starts slinging magic. And that's Laura Dannon. And
magic, green magic.
The crone tries to tell him to shut up. He does it. He breaks the illusion.
Yep.
And then we have finally our boss battle. Like the crone and all of like the thing comes in her true form, like one eyeball somehow.
Gross.
Yeah, really gross.
Did she have like tentacles or some disgusting things flowing out of her? It was wild. I was like, oh, great. Now we're back to the original Willow. Good villain.
So yeah, the crone in her true form comes out, and then it's like instead of the Avengers, we have the minions assemble because they like teleport in front of these little tombstones. The minions come back. They're in fighting. Everybody's whooping ass now. They're fighting, and Jade asks Kit for help. I don't know why. A little princess, a little help. She asked for help. Right. Graydon grows a pair and stands up to the crone once the wand falls down, and he tries to do something. He tries to use his magic on her. The crone breaks the damn wand and basically magically pimp smacks Graydon through the portal, which I thought he was gone at that point, like gone, because it looked like he disintegrated as he was going through.
Yeah, he had that disintegration look, so I was worried. But like, that was one of my favorite moments because she kind of even like praised him a little bit, so like he had passion.
Yeah,
and I was like, man, Graydon was putting his all in that blast. I was like, come on, Graydon, you're not gonna do nothing, but you're trying, bro. I was like, I feel for you, man. And when he got vaporized, that hit me hard. I was like, oh, I was like, no.
He was out of there.
Like, of course. And now this is gonna motivate Elora.
Yeah. So yeah, and then at that moment in anger, Elora finds out that she doesn't need the wand to wield magic, and she starts powering up and Falcon punches. Now she doesn't do that yet. She doesn't do that movement yet. She just does this little weird glow up with one hand.
Swirling energy
into the other hallway.
Did that feel like a reference? I felt like that punch felt like a reference to some other superhero movie or something.
There were so many.
It gave me a reference. That whole like cutaway, seeing the crone fly out of the building from the massive punch that we don't particularly see. We see the reaction of it.
Yeah, and Willow finally mans up, and he, is like, I belong here. I belong by your side. That's why I came back. And he's, I'm going to kill these blokes. So he goes off fighting. Borman gives up the cuirass finally when he realizes that it's not meant for him, gives it to Kit, and then comes two of my favorite lines of the whole show. And what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to go out the way I came in, butt naked and kicking ass.
Did you hear when he said something about who got butter?
Then the door closes and he says, okay, boys, who brought butter?
I'm like, what? What is happening? Who brought butter? Had me dying. I'm like, bro, chill.
Yeah, he was tripping. But it was hilarious. I was like, I don't know what sense that makes, but it was hilarious. And there are a lot of, and I don't know if you felt this way, being the type of fan you are, Andrea, but this, to me, the next part, Elora and the Crone duel goes full Harry Potter minus the one.
Yeah. No, I did like
hands and energy.
It was. Because I'll say this. I would prefer. I believe that if you have powers, you don't need a wand to use them.
Okay.
So I was all for it. Yeah. I was all for them being able to fight. Because I'm like, the wand just focuses your magic. But if you have magic, you have magic. So let's just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Eric, he gets up and he's like, I am your king. I was like, whoa, where did this come from? And then Jay's like,
nope, this is done.
this conversation is over. And they start going at it.
It was this episode. I mean, maybe I might have missed it in past ones, but it was in this episode that it was actually confirmed that they are twins, and he's a minute older than she is.
Yeah.
Than Kit. But Kit's the one who's like trusted with everything.
Yeah.
Not the twin who's actually older. And the boy, which I liked.
Yeah. I feel like there were a lot of, Jordan, you mentioned references. I think there are a lot of references sprinkled throughout this from a bunch of different other IP. Like I mentioned, Harry Potter. This next one is kind of Star Wars-esque because you have Willow speaking into Elora's mind when he like closes his eyes and he's hiding behind something. This to me was the Star Wars use the Force moment when Luke was about to go to the Death Star, but instead of Elora, she's continuing her fight and she doesn't believe she can win against the clone. They're going at it back and forth, and then finally it looks like Elora's about to die as the clone jumps on top of her, and then she blasts her off of her and then jumps and tackles her and blows her up, blows the crone into shards. Eric runs to the body, and I'm like, why y'all just watch man run over there? Because they were sat there and looked at him like they just
we
like,
kissed that creature.
Here's the thing, because he saw the girl,
that beautiful
everyone else
lady.
is seeing the crone.
Exactly.
So so gross. Like it was a moment of disbelief. They're like, "Do you not see this?
Yeah.
Do you not see her?
No,
what are you doing?" And
the Kool-Aid did it.
He sees the beautiful girl who still reminds me of his sister, like a more girly version of his sister.
It's weird.
And it's like
good connection you drew.
More of like disbelief. Like, did he just really kiss that thing?
I was like, ugh. And when they cut back to Jade and Kit basically both sitting on their knees, like watching the whole thing, and my man is getting possessed right in front. I'm like, wow.
I love that part. I was like, yes.
Watching this. Get up and do something. They all just watched. Kit finally tries the Lux as actually Jade pushes the Lux into her armor. And another reference to me, kind of, it's morphin time. She
the Iron Man suit, man. That was the whole Iron Man.
She transforms into this suit, and then we have Zombie Eric against Ranger Kit.
Ranger Kit, I love it. Ranger Kit, yep.
Go Power Rangers.
She was going hard. Can we talk? What's more? Her slices were like releasing some weird concussive blast. I was like, ghostly ethereal blast. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, you're very OP right now. I'm like,
and I was tripping because Eric looked like he got some like zombie training. Like he wasn't that.
Oh yeah.
It was. He got trained.
It was a trope in the first episode when they're like he's off in the woods training, and Kit knew like, oh, he's with some girl somewhere. He's not training. What type of training is he doing? Like, he's not trying to fight nobody. But he was getting down. He was doing his little flippy thing, too. He's getting his wushu kung fu on with the sword and going back and forth. And obviously, finally, Kit breaks him down, and she has a line like, you have to sacrifice something. She's thinking she's going to have to kill Eric, and she's crying. And once again, we're having this weird come to Jesus talk over the body of Eric, and I'm like, he can wake up at any moment and like do something. Y'all.
I thought.
And y'all are conversing right now. You're having a chat right now over the body, and out of nowhere, Willow walks up and smashes his staff so that she can use the crystal to talk to him, to break through to Eric. He wakes up, and that's pretty much the end of things. I was like, why? You could have did that a while ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of expected his old hairstyle to come back.
That'd have been hilarious.
I was like, because I felt like as long as it's short, do we still know that he's not infected somewhere? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, I was really expecting his hair to like magically be long again.
Yeah. This was very, like we were talking about references. Here's another one. This at the end became very Wizard of Oddish to me, and like everybody that was seeking something for themselves, that until they came to the end of the journey, Kit basically had to accept her destiny that she was trying to run from. Borman had to realize it wasn't really about him anymore, so it was time to kind of pass the things along to the next generation and for whose story it really was. So he gives up the cuirass to who it really belongs to and becomes truly a part of the team. Willow has been gradually accepting that he wasn't what he was portraying himself to be, but he could do what he could do. So he basically gave up his illusions of grandeur of being this great sorcerer. So he finally saw Graydon's potential. And I think before he jumps off the waterfall, he even says, "I'm proud of you," to Graydon before he makes the jump, because obviously I don't think Graydon was ever going to get that from his father. And Graydon was basically the cowardly lion who wanted some courage, and he found that in himself, and he got that courage and was able to move on. Jade basically finds who she really is throughout the journey and accepts it and moves on. But it was really Wizard of Oddish at the end, how everybody kind of got what it was they really needed to get for themselves. And I find that there's a lack of true loss as far as the tertiary. Like, we didn't lose any of the main cast in this show. No, we don't.
But like, technically,
but if you watch the basically the end cut scene, we know we don't lose Graydon. We lost Valentine, whoever the head of the guard was. We lose Silas.
Lots of lumberjack
and we lose the woods women.
Well, when I say lose, I mean like he's not with them, and we don't like know where he is.
Yeah,
like he's in another dimension again. He's in that other dimension. So I have a question. Based on what we saw, we saw this image of Allura with red hair but short, and she was wearing a black outfit.
I think that's an illusion.
The crone, so did the crone? Do you think the crone's coming as reincarnated and just utilizing this image of Allura to pacify Graydon? So I was like, now Graydon's gonna be cool. Now Graydon's gonna be a pawn.
It's either the crone or it's Bath Morta or something else using the illusion that knows will easily manipulate Graydon, because he's already admitted that he loves her. So that was after admitting that in that layer, that information was passed on. Like, ooh, I know how we can do what we wanted to do. But yeah, we do get that end scene where you find him. Ironically, if you look at the scene where Graydon wakes up, it's actually the scene that we've seen multiple times through Willow's premonitions, his visions, where he usually wakes up on the pile of bodies, and when he looks around, he sees Allura, but Allura's dead. But in here, it's Graydon that wakes up. We keep going through this vision, and then the credits hit, I think, and then at the end of the credits, there's another thing we see. We see the books. They close the book of Willow, and then you see them put up volume 1, and then next to volume 1 in different colors, you see volume 2 and volume 3. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but it looks like there's at least teasing 2 more seasons.
When I saw that, I was so like, I knew it was going to happen because of all the setup they gave us, but I'm like, just if you're going to do it, if they renew this, just make it better. Make it shorter. Don't waste our time.
My hope is that they did all of the story building in this season. So we don't need filler episodes, hopefully in season 2. Yeah. Because we know who Willow is. We know the team. We know the big bad. We understand what's going on. We get the gist. I'm hoping, what you're hoping as well, there aren't 4 filler episodes in the very beginning where it's just like, get to the point.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we know who the big bad is. We know the worm is basically the big bad that's trying to awaken. We don't know who the new agent will be, or who the next harbinger will be, now that the crone has been. I don't know if maybe it's just in this dimension where she was destroyed. Maybe she's still a corporeal body in that other dimension where you've seen the short-haired Allura looking like Black Widow in the other scene with Graydon.
She did
look like, that's ridiculous. You're very right.
So yeah, we know who the big bad is. We don't know who the next agent for the worm will be. We did see a bunch of them. She said, like the crone said, that they're awakening. All the others like him are awakening. So maybe one of those will come forth to be the new leader on this side of things, and they'll continue to fight. But then they walked away at the end of the episode, because they were like, shouldn't we just go back and finish this now? And no, the worm is gonna come after us. I'm like, I thought that was the whole idea, that you didn't want him coming out. And we still haven't gotten any true closure with Mad Mortigan, because supposedly, I guess he's on the other side still fighting. Mm-hmm. So
and it was interesting how they did it, because when Kit's in the hallucination, and you hear his voice. Based on her reaction, I feel like she saw her father, like how she was reacting to it. Like I felt like she saw her father, but I was like, oh, I guess they're still not gonna show his face.
I don't think she was looking for him. I don't think she sees him because that was part of why she was kind of looking frantic. She could hear his voice and knew somehow that was his voice.
Yeah, but when it got to a shot, like she had this look in her face, and I'm like, I know what your acting is conveying. I mean, her acting was conveying like she saw something or Ken turned something, but it felt like they weren't going to show it to us for some obvious reason.
Yeah, I was getting something totally different. The look of panic in her face, to me, it looked like she could clearly identify that it was in fact him, but she was being neglected that visual confirmation. And I think it was kind of worrying her. She was like looking around, her eyes got all big when she was kind of forced her way through the crowd, and she wasn't being allowed to see the face that she'd been longing to see for all that time. But I could be wrong.
This is all open to interpretation.
It's open to interpretation.
It literally is. It's like we'll find out. Find out second season.
I don't know if they're definitely a go for season 2, but I think they may be because I saw some articles.
Yeah.
The announcement of season 2. But who knows how? I'm not sure how well it did as far as the streams it got and whether they think it's worth going another. But of course, it's something that they own, so they may just let it marinate for a little while and try and build hype, and then release it when they feel a good time is. Maybe when there's a lull in other content, because we've got a lot of other things I think coming up here pretty soon on Disney Plus. I think Mandalorian season 3 is coming out March 1st or something like that, and they have a bunch of other stuff coming. So maybe they don't want to compete with themselves, but they'll hold that one in the back burner, I'm sure. But I hope they stick to, once they finally figured out what it is, they stick to that and not jump around as much this next season, have a more cohesive storyline. Because you're right, Andre, it was kind of a hodgepodge, and it was kind of kicking you out of the story, basically. But like I said, it kind of reels you in, and then it just kind of throws, almost like Borman's lines. It's, you're like, oh, this is hilarious, but then like, I don't know what this means.
Right.
Okay, boys, who brought butter? Like, all right. It went from being almost Vox Machina X at that point, oh, I'm going to go in the same way I came out, butt naked and kicking ass. And okay, boys, who brought butter? And then the next moment, it's completely something else. Like, I don't know what this is anymore, but I like something. You're about to say something?
I was gonna say, like, yeah, I do agree that has some Vox Machina thoughts in there, and then it made me think of another movie that's coming out. It's like a World of War. That's like a Dungeons and Dragons type thing.
I want to watch that one.
But that is, yeah, the one with Chris Pine.
That one looks like that's gonna be fun.
But no, I do agree, and back to my, I do agree that I hope that with Volume 2 and Volume 3 that it is a much more cohesive story, because I am glad I watched it. Like, I don't regret watching the show. I don't feel like I'm never going to get my hours back, because by the end of it, I did like what I was seeing. But the first, like, episode 1, we had to have like introduce us. But I felt like episode 2, 3, and 4 were really fillers. Did not need to be there. It was painful watching them. And then like you get to the back half, and you're like, oh wait, these are great. I like this episode. And it's just, I don't want that for Volume 2. I feel like that would just be another like slap in the face.
Would be.
Yeah.
So what do you rate the series overall? What's, I guess, your experience with it?
I'd give it like a 5.
I was gonna say 5 too, actually.
I was gonna say a 6.
Okay.
Because I, what gave it the extra point? I really liked. I really liked the fight scenes at the end with the magic. I really did like Graded. I like that he grew on me, that they changed my mind about him. I liked how it was portrayed, their fight scenes, how they grew. It felt, their connections felt real. They didn't feel as forced. Now the training sessions felt forced, but like their camaraderie felt like it was genuinely, truly happening. And I was connecting with them in the last like 3 episodes. So it gets a 6 because I did like it. I don't regret watching this show.
Yeah, Jordan.
I regret watching the show. I hate fillers. This is the part of the reason I'm gonna go on record and say it. This is part of the reason why I stopped watching anime for a long time was because that's all I got constant was filler episodes. So I get triggered when I'm looking at a bunch of filler episodes. Like, let's go, push the story. But yeah, I had to give it a 5 for that. Like for that main reason, a lot of fillers. At times the acting wasn't the best. And as we talked about on all the previous episodes, the kind of the mosh podge or this kind of mixture of tones, and it's not really balanced.
Yeah.
Like switching from horror to comedy to action, like it wasn't done well enough. It found its footing actually towards the end, but it was like just stay in that pocket.
Yeah,
stay in a pocket and own it, and just like play within that. But I feel like the last episode gave me more hope for the series. Like now that we got some conclusion, I was like, all right, so this is what everything was coalescing to. This is kind of cool, like as you called it, Rod, Kid Ranger. Like Kid Ranger was dope, and I was like, these elements are cool. So and I've grown to like Graydon a lot. Surprisingly, I did not expect that at all.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. If they get a second season, that's cool. If they don't, I'm not upset about it.
I think they will.
They
Do you
probably
guys
will.
glean any? Because we're all creators. Like I've written books, Andre's written books, Jordan's written comics. Do you glean anything kind of educationally for if you were to expand your IPs into either TV or animation that you would glean from this? You would like definitely take this portion of it and be able to apply it, and then kind of leave this stuff away, because that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. For me, it was a lot of. I think I had a lot of takeaways on like editing and pacing, and thinking about like how do you want to structure episode. Like you kind of mentioned earlier about like you have these things happening that kind of take you away from the plot, and it's like that's something I think is important. Like how do keeping your audience invested in the plot and the story, but also in the characters as well. How to like do that. So it was kind of like, how can I improve and take notes from what Willow was doing weirdly at times, but that's how it worked out for me.
I honestly, I would have to start something new with the thought in mind that it could one day become on the screen, because I didn't write any of my stories to be anything more than really books. And so, yeah, I didn't plan for, so like, cause I've been working on trying to like process of turning the story into a comic, but even then it's a different medium, and there's like stuff that I didn't plan for as I wrote the book that would need to happen as a comic.
Yeah.
And I did it on purpose because I wanted to give the reader a chance to leave things open-ended and like have their own like version of something as they read it. But if I felt like I was going to write it to possibly maybe one day be on television, I would just have to like do a whole new project.
Okay.
And like write it with the thought that one day it could possibly be on TV. Because not that I don't think my
Why
books
can't you?
good,
Yeah. Why? What is? I want to dig deep. God, we're gonna dig deep on the podcast. Why can't you see your characters like?
Because I wrote them to be interpreted differently by each person who read them. So like I've had different people come up and say they got different things from the same character because I didn't like how Kit is a character, like Kit, how she is, that's exactly how she is. Like you're not changing how Kit is. But with like Aubriana, she's up to interpretation depending on who's reading them. Like if someone, so I don't want to put her into a visual mode. Like the what is that series? Divergent. How it fit in the book, because in the book we were able to use our imagination so much in reading it, but on screen that world didn't work on screen. They tried to, but it didn't have the same magic as it did, because regardless of whether the author did, I don't really think she wrote it to be on screen, because there was so much about it that was sort of left into the imagination that I know a lot of people.
She was less descriptive so that you could basically fill in the blanks on your own in your mind.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that way each world was your own. Okay. And that's how I wrote my books, to allow people to fill in the blanks for themselves. Like, okay, this is how I think this character looks. Oh, this is how I think the ship looks. This is how I think. And if I changed it to a medium that was visual, it would cut out some of that open imagination that I wanted people to have. So to say, I would have to.
That's so beautiful. That's beautiful.
I would have to write something
for that purpose,
for a possibility of it being on television.
And I agree with you on that. I was more saying, as far as if you were to go that route, execution wise, like I think there was a lot of structural problems with the storytelling and the way that it was going. I think the visuals looked very good though, and the CG was for the most part pretty good. It was just the execution of the story here.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, these are things that I would like to have. I'd like to have obviously this budget to be able to have things of this quality, but I try and tighten up the story, and so that everything kind of coalesce better in the execution when I get to that stage. That's pretty much what I was talking about. I understand what you're saying, because you're kind of stuck in the visual. Like when you're presenting visuals, then that's the visuals you have, and there's no veering from that, because you can't argue with what's right in front of your face.
All right. Yeah. You don't have to get like your fans coming at you, be like, I didn't expect this character to look like that. Like, didn't that happen every time with like Harry Potter or like any YA novel? When a character was made black, and they're like, wait a second, this character's not black. And I'm like, well, technically
but she was in the book. But again,
right. Wasn't Homegirl from
she can be black today.
From Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Rue was.
They were both black in the book.
Rue.
But no one, again, your imagination.
That's ridiculous.
No one imagined that. Well, we did, because I didn't
know. Wow.
But it's like that, where it's like, okay, people get really connected to the version they imagine. And so unless you explain every single detail, so that way your version of them is showing up, it's hard. But yeah, this one seemed like it was a rough draft, and they could have went back to the cutting board and be like, all right, this can come out, this thing can come out. Because again, what was the point of the lumberjacks? I feel like if you're putting something on screen, everything needs to be there.
Yeah. Lumberjacks were gone.
What was the point?
The brownies were just there for member berries.
But they were.
Yeah. Them. Scorpia hasn't returned since the Wildwood, and they escaped out of the troll mines. Nothing's done with that. So I get better luck next time if they have a next season. Hopefully they smooth that out. Thank you guys once again for taking the time out of your day to chop it up about this. This actually ended up being an entertaining series in the end, even though it frustrated me at times. The one or two of you that caught us on live, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to view us chatting. The audio will be uploaded to anchor.com and dispersed to various channels where you can find podcasts. So iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Radiocast, and places like that. So go check us out there. And don't forget to check out Trekkie and Beyond.
A Star Trek podcast. Discover Discovery with us. Where's my hands out there?
There we go. There it is.
Andrea Rose Washington and Monica Pinkett. They'll be talking all things Discovery and other Star Trek things. I think they're wrapping up right about now.
Yep,
thank y'all once again. Season 4. Thank y'all once again, and we will talk with you later.
Peace.